So hello everyone and welcome to this session on IELTS General Writing Task 1. This is different from academic because as you saw last week when we did academic, it was all about different charts and different diagrams and tables. But this one is not about that. It is all about letters. So I'm going to show you the different types of letters that you need to be aware of and how to write them. Before we begin, you must first know that there are some things some important things that you need to be aware of, and that is that it's only 20 minutes long. Out of the 60 minutes in writing, this is only 20 minutes long. You must write at least 150 words or more. Do not write less than 150 words. It is worth only 33% of your total writing score, and you must address all of the bullet points in the question. And I will explain what that means. We will look at some questions and I will explain them to you. So when the examiner looks at your letter, this is what they're going to look for. Why is this letter being written? Did you get the purpose of the letter? Are you using the correct tone? Are you using a formal or a semi-formal or an informal tone based on who you're writing to? So it is the reader or the audience that you have to keep in mind, and that is what determines whether it's a formal, semi-formal, or an informal letter. In each bullet point, is each bullet point clearly presented and highlighted? Have you addressed every single bullet point in the question? If you leave out any information in the bullet point, then that will automatically lower your task achievement score. And did you follow the correct written format? That means the 4 paragraphs and the salutation and the signature at the bottom. Okay, that is known as the format. Now let's look at the 3 types of letters that you are expected to know. The first one is a formal letter. It's very important you pay attention to what are these types of letters. When you're writing a formal letter, it is meant to be written to a person or someone in a company that you do not personally know. And the situation is business related, or it's a professional or an official business. So for example, if you're writing to somebody an official in the government, then you're writing a formal letter. If you're writing to somebody in a company, then it is a formal letter. If you're writing to a supervisor in your company, it is a formal letter. So keep in mind, it is somebody that you do not know personally, or you might know them as a business person, but you do not know them personally or socially. So that is a formal letter. Okay, a semi-formal letter is when you address your acquaintances, whom you personally know, but they are not your friends. For instance, it could be your landlord, some of your relatives that you're not too close to. Maybe you don't visit them often or you don't know them that well. Your neighbors that you may not know, or maybe you're not very friendly with them. And only those family members who you do not know that well, who live far away from you and who you do not meet very often. So this tone will be a little friendlier tone than the formal letter, but not too casual like when you're writing to a very good friend. Okay, the only time you write an informal letter is when you're writing to a friend or to a very close family member. That's the only time you use an informal tone. And it should not be formal. It should be more casual and a very friendly tone that you're using. But, and this is the only letter, an informal letter, where you can and you're allowed to use contractions. For example, you can use don't instead of do not. You can use can't instead of cannot. Okay, so those are the 3 different types of letters. So remember the criteria for each one of them.
Ma'am,
Yes.
open a bank account, writes a letter to manager, etc. This is the formal letter.
Yes, it is a formal letter because it is a person in a company or a business and you do not know the manager. He is not your personal friend. He's not a relative or a family member or even a neighbor. It's somebody you do not know personally. So it would be a formal letter.
Okay. And another things, write a letter when uncle. So it is informal.
Yes, if this uncle is very close to you and you have good relationship with this uncle, you meet him often and you're very friendly with this uncle, then it would be informal. But if you're not that friendly with him, you do not meet him, you do not know him that well, then you would use a semi-formal
Okay.
tone. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
All right. All right. I'm going to ask you to mute yourselves because some of you are not unmute. And yeah, thank you. So next one is, here are the different types of letters you need to be aware of. So what is the purpose of the letter? The purpose is they might give you a letter that you have to make a complaint about something. In this letter, it requires you to write a letter to complain about a product or a service or a situation. Maybe you went to a hotel and you did not get good service in a hotel because maybe the room was not quite comfortable, or you did not get the towels and the sheets that you wanted, or maybe it was too noisy or it was dirty. So you have to write a formal or semi-formal complaint to that business. Okay. It'll be a formal because you do not know this business, you do not know the hotel, it'll be formal. But a semi-formal is when you're making a complaint, for example, to your landlord. It would be semi-formal because you know your landlord, but you're not very friendly with your landlord. He's not your personal friend. So if you're complaining about the apartment that you're renting and there might be a problem with some pests in your apartment, you are making a complaint to him about that problem. So then you would use a semi-formal tone in your letter. It all depends on who you're writing to. Okay. The second purpose that you will be given is that you're required to give information. This type of a letter is usually either a semi-formal or an informal type of letter. And what it does, it requires you to write a letter to respond to a request made by someone for some information. For example, somebody recently sent me a letter that they had written to a friend who was asking for advice on which university to go to. So because this is a good friend and you know each other from school, this person who wrote the essay used an informal tone. So that was the correct thing to do because she was a close friend and she went to high school and college with the writer. She decided to use an informal tone, which is the right thing to do. When do you use a semi-formal for
Uh,
giving information? Is
Excuse me,
when,
ma'am.
yes, go ahead.
Uh, Ma'am, in case of complaint, I mean, to make a complaint, will tone will be semi formal or formal?
It depends on who you're writing to,
I
right?
mean, sometimes we say that in formal letters, I have to give some information. So in this case, how I will write the, letter. So which I will follow? I mean, semi formal tone or formal tone?
That depends on the person you're writing to. Are you writing to a business?
Mm,
A-
as for example, we can say that as you said that for room service, I did not get my expected room service. So I'm making some complaints to the MD of the hotel or hotel, you can say.
right.
So in this case, I have to give him some information related that what type of service actually I didn't get. So
Right.
it's a kind of information. So in this case, which one I will follow? Which tone I will follow?
Yes, because it is a manager of a hotel and that manager is not your friend, right? You do not know the
Yes.
manager. He
Yeah.
is not your neighbor. He is not your family member. And he's not a close relative to you, right? So in that
Mhm.
case, You have to think that way. Who is this manager? Do I know this manager? And if the answer is no, I do not know him, he represents a business, then automatically you know the answer is formal. You must use a formal tone with this person because he's a businessman. You do not know him. You must write a formal letter to him.
That means it is very important that to whom I am writing the letter, right?
Exactly. Your audience or your reader is the one that will determine what tone to use. The only time you use an informal, and they are very rare, they will not give you too many of these letters, is when you're writing to a friend or to a very close family member. For example, somebody was writing to their grandmother and inviting them to a graduation ceremony. So because it's your grandmother, you're very close to her, right? She is like a very close family member. So you would use an informal tone with her. You're not going to use a formal tone with your own grandmother, right? So it all depends on who you're writing to. Okay?
That means during writing letter, in some cases, I have to use my common sense, right?
Yes. You have to say, you have to think to yourself, who am I writing to? And this is why in every single question that they give you, the first thing they state is who you're writing to, because that will determine what kind of a tone you have to use. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So the next one I said is giving information, and it could be an informal because you could write to a friend to give them information, or you could use a semi-formal tone because, for example, there was one question that said you have to write to a newspaper editor to tell them, give them some information about your hometown because they reported something incorrect about your hometown. So in that case, I would use a semi-formal tone, okay? Because I do not know them and they represent a newspaper, but I wouldn't use a very formal tone with them because they are not representing a business or a service, okay? Now, making a request is usually always formal because when you make a request, you're writing a letter primarily to ask for some information from a company or business. Okay, so you're asking for some information. Okay.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
When I've in some cases I make some requests to my friends too. So in this case, I will have to follow the, informal tone. So, but
Yes.
here you have written
Yes.
making a request, so the tone will be formal. So in this case, it's
Yes.
a little bit complex to understand, I think.
Yes. So the only time you would use an informal tone if you're making a request of a friend. But in this example that's in this chart, it says company or business. So if you're asking for information from company or a business, then you must use a formal tone. But of course, we know that if you're making a request of a friend, like maybe you're asking a friend to look after your apartment while you're gone somewhere, that is asking them for a favor, you're making a request, then you would use an informal tone.
Yeah, that means again, you have to, I have to consider the person to whom I am writing the letter, right?
Right. And like I said, it's not very often they will give you a letter like that. This is why I put down formal, because that's what normally you will see in a test. Okay. Another type is when you have to thank somebody because they have done something really good for you and you're very grateful for them. So you would write a formal letter to thank someone for his or her help or thoughtfulness or kindness. So it could be actually, instead of formal, I would actually change that to informal because I've usually seen that with friends, people who want to, people who have done something to help out their friend. So they want to thank their friend. So it would be an informal or a semi-formal. If somebody that you don't really know too well, maybe your neighbor or maybe a relative or your landlord who has helped you out, you would use a semi-formal tone with them. Okay, just to thank them for what they've done. Inviting someone, semi-formal or informal, because as I said, somebody wrote a letter to their grandmother to invite her to their graduation. So they used an informal tone with that because it's her grandmother. But for semi-formal, it would be somebody you just don't know that well. Maybe it's a cousin who lives in another city, another state, somewhere far away, and you don't get to meet them too often. Maybe you're inviting them to a wedding or something. So then you would use a semi-formal tone. Okay, so you're inviting them to a party or an event. Okay, next one is to make an apology. This could be a formal or semi-formal. It requires you to write a letter to apologize for making a mistake or causing inconvenience to someone or causing damage to something. So one person wrote, here's an example of this. They wrote a letter where a young person, just a teenager, who was looking after somebody's property, damaged something while they were in the property. So this person wrote to make an apology to the person, the owner of the property. So they used a semi-formal tone for that reason, because they were supposed to help out, so they know this person, but they don't know them well enough to be a friend. So this is why it is a semi-formal. Okay, so you could also use a formal tone if you are actually making an apology to someone you do not know at all, but you did something that caused some kind of damage or inconvenience. For example, to their store, maybe you damaged something in their store while you were there shopping. Now you have to write a letter to apologize to them. So you would use a formal tone for that. Okay, because you don't know the person, the owner or the manager of the store, so you have to use a formal tone. But if you're making an apology to a friend, then you have to use an informal tone. Okay, applying for a job is always formal because you have to apply for a full or part-time job that has been advertised by a company or a business. And these companies and businesses you do not know, you're applying for a job, so you must use a formal tone here. All right, it is never that you would use an informal tone for this last one. All right, should I move along or does anybody have any questions?
Ma'am, if I if I make mistake in making the purpose, as for example, I am making, I'm writing everything okay, but I could not, I was not able to catch the because the person to whom or to understand what type of letter it is. So in this, but my grammar grammar and everything is okay. So will it affect on my band score?
Yes, I will show you the band descriptors at the very end. There are 4 categories in your band descriptors. The first one is task achievement. So if you do not understand the purpose or who to write to and you use the wrong tone, then your task achievement will be a low band score. Your grammar might be okay, your vocabulary might be okay. Maybe you'll get 7 in both, but you will get a 5 or a 6 in your task achievement, which will lower your overall band score because they take average of the 4 band scores to give you an overall in your writing.
Okay, thank you.
So here's a structure or format of letters. How are you supposed to write them? First, you always begin with dear. And then depending on who you're writing to, if it's a friend, you write their first name. If it is a business or it is a manager and you know their name, then you're going to write Mr. and his last name or her last name, or Mrs. and her last name with a comma. But if you do not know their name, but they are like a manager of a restaurant or of a business, then you would say dear sir or dear madam, or you would say dear sir / madam. Okay. And then the first one is always your introduction paragraph where you state your purpose for writing. Why are you writing the letter? Okay. Then in the next is your first body paragraph where you explain the situation, or if it's some kind of a problem, then you outline the problem. For example, if it's a complaint, that's where you make the complaint and explain what happened. Okay. And then in your second body paragraph, you have to offer a solution. You don't wait for them to come and give you a solution, but you say what you would want to be done as a remedy. So if somebody did something, maybe gave you really poor service in a hotel, then you have to suggest a solution or remedy, some kind of an action that would make you happy. Or maybe you received a faulty product when you were doing some online shopping, and they sent you an appliance that did not work well. So you have to, this is where you have to say that you would like to return the appliance and you want a full refund for it, and so on. So that's a desirable action that you're asking. It's a solution you're offering. Then you should have a closing. This is where you say bye and you thank the reader. And then you end with a signature like yours truly, always a comma after that, or yours for an informal letter, yours sincerely for a formal letter, and your friend, if it is, of course, your friend. They always have a comma at the end, as you notice. Then you sign your name at the bottom. Please remember that yours, if you're writing the word yours or your, the Y is always in capital. But not the word truly. There's no capital T, there is no capital S, and no capital F. Remember that. The only thing that's capital is the Y. Okay? This is very important for you to know how to write this structure.
Madam, this structure is common for all types of letters?
Yes, 100%, all of them. Okay?
Okay.
I give you some examples. We will look at them together. Salutation is the top part where you say, dear so-and-so. Always begin with dear and the person's last or first name followed by a comma. Do not write anything else on that line. Begin after that, begin an introductory paragraph. So for an informal or semi-formal letter, you would say their name, dear Lincoln, put a comma. Dear Abby, put a comma. Dear grandmother, put a comma. Okay, so it's only if it's an informal or semi-formal letter. So maybe these people are your friends or cousins or a very close family member that you're writing to. This is why it's an informal or semi-formal. But for formal letters, you have to write their last name. Dear Mr. Romano, dear Miss Weaver, or dear Sir / Madam. And as you noticed, the S and the M are both in capital. Okay.
Ma'am, if the name is given in the question, so I will have to mention the name. I mean, I will have to write the name, or I can write dear sir or madam instead of.
No, they do not give you. They normally do not give you the name of the person. Some people just make it up, or some people just start with dear sir / madam. It's just fine to use this at the instead of a name. It's only if you know the name of the person.
If the name is given, then I will have to write the name?
Yes, correct.
If I don't want to write that, I will not write the name. I will write the only sir or madam. So it will be, I mean, it will be wrong or it will be correct.
I have not seen questions that have a name given to you. I have not come across any such question that gives you a name that you must write to. Most likely you will just say dear sir / madam. This is what most people use. So you can just use this last one.
Okay.
So the first thing you have to do is identify the purpose of the letter and what type of a letter it is based on who you're writing to. So if it says, here's one for you to do, here's an exercise, write a letter to your friend, advising them not to move into the neighborhood. In your letter, recommend that your friend not go ahead with the purchase give the reasons behind your decision to leave, and suggest possible or alternative areas that you know. So your friend is going to purchase a house in a neighborhood, and you're trying to discourage them from buying that house because it's not a good neighborhood. So let's take a look at this. Okay, I'm going to do it like this so that I can highlight. So it says, write a letter to your friend. Let me make it nice and big so you can see it. I'm going to highlight, sorry, not all of it. I wanted to just highlight some of it. So, sorry, it didn't come out right. All right, so it says write a letter to your friend. So as soon as you see the word friend, I'm going to highlight that. What do you think? What do you think what is the tone that you're going to use? If you see the word friend, you're going to use a informal tone because you saw the word friend, advising them not to move into the neighborhood. So now let's go back and see what kind of a letter it is. Are you making a complaint? Are you giving information? Are you making a request? Are you thanking that friend? Are you inviting them, making an apology, or applying for a job? Which one of these purposes are there? Let's go back and read. It says, advising them. That is how you know the purpose of the letter. Okay, so I'll highlight that. So you're advising them not to move into a neighborhood. So it is one of those letters that is an advice or giving information type of a letter. So let me highlight this. Okay, so friend tells you it's informal. Advising them tells you what type of a letter it is. Okay, now here's one bullet point, second bullet point, and a third bullet point. In your letter, you must talk about all three things, because if you don't do that, then you get a very low band score in task achievement. Okay, so this letter is going to use an informal tone. Okay, it is going to use an informal tone right there because you're writing to a friend and you're going to give them information. And how do I know that I have to give them information? Is because of what it says in the bullet points. Because I'm giving them reasons or information why I left that neighborhood. It's not a good, safe neighborhood. So I'm going to say that in my body paragraph.
But that
Okay.
means, madam, from the bullet points, I can understand the, purpose.
Right. So you will always get questions like this, but you can always use, if it's a paper pencil test, highlight or underline who you're writing. That's the way you know whether it's formal, informal, or semi-formal. Highlight what you're supposed to do. It's saying advising them, highlight that or underline it. That way you know what type of a letter it is. It is giving information or giving advice. Okay. And then in your body paragraphs, you must state these three things. Okay. So in your introduction, you're going to say, dear, and you have to make up your friend's name. You cannot say, dear sir, madam, because you do not address your friend like that. This is where you have to make up a name for your friend. Okay. Whatever, let's say Sam, dear Sam, comma, I am writing this letter to you to advise you against purchasing this house in this neighborhood, and you can give it a name. The more details you give on your own, you have to make up some things. You have to pretend you're an author and you're writing a little story.
That means I can give the name by my own, right?
Yes, make it up. It's all fictional, but that's okay. You can make up fictional names. Maybe there is a neighborhood in your own city that you know, and you can use that. That's okay. You could say, hello, Sam. I am writing this letter to advise you not to go ahead and buy a house in such and such neighborhood. And that's all you have to say in paragraph 1. That's your introduction. Then you start with body paragraph number 1. And your body paragraph will be this. Everything that you say will come from this bullet point in that body paragraph. And you would
That
say,
means, madam, introduction is common. Okay, then I will give all the information from the bullet points in body paragraph, right?
right, correct. So letters are easy that way because they make it easy by giving you bullet points, and they're telling you, IELTS is actually telling you, look at the bullet points because they will be your paragraphs. Okay, so this will be your body paragraph 1, and then this one will be your body paragraph 2.
The first one,
First one
recommend that.
is your introduction.
Okay.
Okay. And then body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, and then remember you're saying goodbye to your friend in the next paragraph, and then you're signing off by saying your friend and then sign your name at the bottom. Okay. And after you're done, make sure that you count that it is over 150 words. Don't forget your connective devices. It's important that you use the right connective devices. Now let's look at another one. Here's this one. You ordered an item from an online store and it has arrived damaged. Oops. Write a letter to the retailer to complain. Retailer is a company or a business. Okay, so this is your audience. I'm going to highlight this. So you know that because it's a business, you don't know the person and you don't know anybody in that retail company. It is going to be a formal tone. Okay. And it has arrived damaged. And you know that this is a complaint letter because it tells you you're going to complain in your letter. Okay. I'm going to highlight that. So you know, from these 2 words, I know exactly what tone to use and I know what type of a letter it is. So I'm going to take you back to the type, and it says, make a complaint, formal letter. It requires you to write a letter to complain about a product or a service or a situation. That's what this one is. Okay. In the letter, the first letter you're going to do is you're going to say, dear sir, madam, because you do not know them, comma, then you begin your introduction. I am writing this letter to complain about, you must use that word, okay? To complain about a product that, or an item that I ordered from your store, which has arrived damaged. Okay, so you just finish your introduction. Your introduction will come from here, from right here. Okay. And then this is why you're unhappy. Okay. And you could say, I am writing to complain to you about an item I ordered from your online store, which has arrived damaged. And I am very unhappy about this situation. Now you're going to begin body paragraph 1. Body paragraph 1, you're going to request a refund. Okay. Sorry, let's go back to this one. You're going to explain what part is damaged and how it is not working. You have to give more details. So then you're going to say that when I went to plug it in, it wasn't working and I could hear the sound of the motor, but it was just clicking and nothing was happening and I wasn't able to use it for the purpose that it was intended. Okay. And when you're done, your next body paragraph, you're going to say that you are now requesting a refund because it is a damaged product and you cannot, it's unusable. So you would like to return it and you are requesting a refund for it. And then in the same paragraph, do not use a third paragraph to write this. I want you to make arrangements. That means that you will say that you will package it up in its original box and you will return it to the post office and you will send it back to the retailer so that they can receive their damaged item back. Okay, so you are going to combine this and this, both of them together in one paragraph. Okay, this is going to be your body paragraph 1, where you're going to explain what is wrong with the item. Then you're going to request a refund and make arrangements to return the damaged item. Then your last line will be, I look forward to your favorable response, or I look forward to receiving a refund. I look forward to your response, one of those. And then you sign yours sincerely, comma, and then your name. Okay. Let's look at a third one. Write a letter to your new neighbors. Remember that the important word is new. Because they're new, you didn't get to know them as yet. They're not good friends as yet because they're so new to your neighborhood. You didn't get a chance to know them. So it's not going to be an informal letter, even though they are your neighbors. It will not be a formal letter either, because they are not representatives of a company. They're not managers. They're not your landlord or anything, or your supervisors. They're your new neighbors. So I would use a semi-formal tone here. In your letter, you have to thank them for the invitation. So you have to imagine that they invited you somewhere, maybe to a party, an event or something. Mention what plans you already have. That means you're apologizing that you're not able to come. Suggest when you can meet them. So let's go back and see what kind of a letter it is from here. It's not complaint, it's not information, and they're not making a request. It is thanking someone. It's a combination of thanking, because you have to thank them. But you're not inviting them, they invited you, so you have to make an apology. Okay, so this is actually an apology letter. It's not even a thanking letter. So for an apology letter, let's go back. You're using a semi-formal tone, and you begin by saying, and because they're your neighbors, you're not going to use sir or madam. You're going to make up a name. Okay, and because it's plural, it says S. Make up 2 names, maybe husband and wife. You can make up the 2 names. Dear, you can call them a man and a woman name, right? Male and a female name, comma. Thank you for the invitation to your housewarming party. Okay, I'm writing this letter to thank you for your invitation to your housewarming party. Unfortunately, I'm unable to attend on that day. And then you're going to mention in the body paragraph what plans you already have. And here you have to give a little bit more details. You can't just say that, unfortunately, I have plans to go to visit my uncle's house or my grandmother's house that night, because that's only one sentence, and you cannot have just one sentence as a body paragraph. So you must say that prior to receiving your invitation, I had already made plans to go to my cousin's birthday party on the same day at 7 p.m. So you'll have to make all this up like it's a story. So you have to be like an author writing a story or a book, and you have to make up all these things and say why you're not able to attend because you have other plans. Or you could say that I had already planned to take my daughter shopping that day because she has to attend a very important event and she needs some items for that. So I promised her that I would take her shopping that day, and it is going to be a full day of shopping. And I had already promised her that. So mention the plans that you already have. Okay. Then in your second body paragraph, you could say where you can meet them. So this is like you making remedies or saying, offering alternative solutions and saying, I can meet you, or we can meet for a coffee, or we can go out to a cafe for a quick meal or quick bite to eat somewhere. maybe on a weekend or over such and such weekend, over a holiday or something like that. And I would love to meet you and get to know both of you a little bit better. And welcome to the new neighborhood, right? You can always say that because they have just come into your neighborhood. Okay. And then you end by saying your neighbor, comma, and sign your name. So you see the tone is not formal and it is not informal. It is semi-formal.
Madam, excuse me, madam.
Yes.
Madam, as we can see that thank them for the invitation. That means instantly I could understand that that is thanking type letter. But you're telling that that it is apologize letter. So in this case, how could I understand or how could I generate my idea that is it is apologize or different types of letters rather than the word giving me the different information giving me. So in this case, it's a little bit uh, complex or difficult to me that to understand that why we are writing this letter as apologize.
Because the first, as I said, the bullet points just tell you what to write in your paragraphs. They're not telling you what type of a letter it is. So the bullet point, the first one is telling you in your first paragraph, thank them for the invitation. So that doesn't mean that your entire letter is about thanking them. It's only the first line that you're thanking them. Then your second body paragraph is all about this because you're apologizing to them for not being able to attend because you have alternative plans that day. So it is an apology letter. It is not a thank you letter.
But they are not mentioning clearly that I am not attending the program. But I have to understand by reading the bullet points, right?
Yes, because it says mention what plans you already have. That means you already had some kind of a plan before they invited you to their party. So you could say that I already had these plans and then explain what those plans are. Therefore, I'm unable to attend, and for that, I apologize. So you must say that I'm apologizing. And then your last body paragraph is to show some kind of solution to this, because you don't want to just say, I'm sorry, I'm not coming to your party. That would be a rude way of ending your letter. You could suggest an alternative where they can meet and where they can go out, or you and them can get together and have something to eat, or maybe you can invite them to your house and say, well, if you come over to my house next weekend, I would love to catch you up with the new neighborhood and everybody who lives here. And we can have a nice chat about the facilities in the new town or in the new neighborhood. So something like that. You could suggest an alternative to them because you were not able to meet them during the event, that you can meet them at another event or maybe at another meeting. That's what that means. But this is not a thank you letter. If it was a thank you letter, then you wouldn't have this middle part here. Because how would you thank somebody for plans you already have? That's not saying that that's thank you. Right?
So here I can give any name, dear X, Y, Z, L, like this.
Right. You have to make up the names of the people because they're your neighbors. And you have to assume that they have given you some kind of a card or an invitation, or they've sent you an electronic invitation, or they've sent you a text message or WhatsApp requesting that you attend some kind of an event or party. So they would have signed it with their name. So you have to assume that. So now that you know their name, you can use their name in your letter and say, dear blank, and use, we're pretending it's a husband and wife. You can use the husband's name and you can make up a wife's name and say, dear blank and blank, comma. Okay. All right, so this is a semi-formal, as I said. This one was a formal because it's retailer and you're complaining. This one is an apology letter to your new neighbor, so it's semi-formal and apologizing. And now let's look at this. People in your area are having problems with their internet connection. Okay, write a letter to the company that provides this internet connection. So you're writing to a company. As soon as it says the word company, I know I have to use a formal tone. Okay. In your letter, first, it says describe the problem, then explain how it is affecting people, and say what the company should do to help. This is where you're offering solutions. Okay. So let's go back because there was one just like that. It is making a complaint type of a letter, isn't it? You're making a complaint and it's a formal letter. It requires you to write a letter to complain about a service because internet is a service or a situation. So it's creating a situation. So it's both. Okay. So let's go back to this and take a look at this. So now that we know it's a company, internet company, you're going to use a formal tone because you do not know them. They're not your personal friends. And you are looking at the word problems. Therefore, you know that it is going to be a complaint letter. So you're going to begin by saying, dear sir, madam, comma, and then you're going to start with your introduction. I am writing this letter to complain to you about the multiple problems that the people in my area are experiencing due to poor internet connection. Okay, so that's your introduction. That's all you have to say. Then in your body paragraph number 1, you have to give details on how it is affecting people. So now you have to say, to begin with, it is affecting many people in my area in many ways. And then you're going to say how some people are not able to get online for meetings. Children are not able to connect for their online school, for their classes. And some people are being affected because they were expecting to do some online shopping. So anything that they can think of that internet connection or poor internet connection would cause delay or problems with, you should list them in your body paragraph number 1. Okay, just list the problems. Don't give solutions at this point. List at least 2 problems, maybe 3 if you have time, but at least 2 problems. Okay. Then say what the company should do to help. Now, here's where you're going to offer solution. That's your body paragraph 2. And you're going to say that as a remedy to all of these troubles that people are going through, I would like your company to offer us a discount for the next month or 2 to make up for the lost revenue or make up for the lost time or something. Ask them for something that they can do, or maybe they can help to troubleshoot some problems, or they can send a technician to your area to troubleshoot what the problem is and try to rectify the problem at the source. Maybe there is a connection that is faulty, a cable or something, so the technician can determine that. So you could say those 2 solutions, that you could send a technician to figure out what actually is happening with the connection, the physical connections or cable connections, or you could say that you could offer us a discount for the loss of service that we have experienced in this past month. And you could even say a percentage. You can make it up. We want a 25% discount. We want a 50% discount. And you could say collectively, my neighborhood would request a 50% or 25% discount on internet service for the next month due to the losses we have incurred. All right. And then finish it by sincerely yours and then sign it. Any questions so far? I'm going to show you some model letters. Okay. So here's one. It is quite long. It is longer, much longer than 150 words, but that's okay. It is a good letter. You tell me what type of tone it is and what type of a letter it is. Dear sir or madam, comma. You can use or you can use the slash. It doesn't matter. Sorry. I am writing to express my discontent with the internet connection that your company provides in our area. Okay, so this is a model answer to the question that you just saw. The disruptive internet connection is causing a great problem for us, and I'm hoping you would resolve it as soon as possible. That's it, that's your introduction. Okay, so you just told them what is that is causing a problem. Now you're going to start with a connective device. To my understanding, your company is supposed to provide technology that guarantees an uninterrupted internet connection. However, another good cohesive device. This does not seem to be the case. For the last couple of weeks, we are experiencing extremely slow connectivity, and sometimes the internet is totally unreachable. During peak hours, the internet speed is as slow as a few kb per second only. Okay. Next. So this is all the problems. Okay. Many people in our area, including my husband, work from home, and disruptive internet connection means they are unable to work. Okay, it's just like I suggested, you could talk about that. Due to poor connectivity, they can't send. See, this is incorrect. You cannot use a contraction. It should be cannot. So this would be, the examiner would look at this. They cannot send finished assignments to their clients on time. Oh, sorry. Frequent disconnections also affect people who do video conferencing online. Besides, we're often unable to do online shopping, send important emails, and pay utility bills online. So this is how it is affecting people. This is showing what the actual problem is. Here it's showing how it is affecting people. Now here you're going to ask for solutions. I expected that your staff would deal with the situation with utmost importance without any delay, but no meaningful action was taken so far. So please send your staff to come over and check if you need to install new cables since they might be fairly old. Take any other measures necessary to resolve the slow connectivity. Expecting a prompt resolution from you, yours sincerely, Adam Holden. Okay? So this is how you're supposed to write it. Now, they wrote too many paragraphs. I would not have written so many. Okay? In fact, what I would have done is I would have made this one a little bit less, and I would have combined paragraph 1 and 2 together, and the solution would be separate, and then it would be farewell, and then this is your signature. Okay, you don't have to write so many words to explain what the problem is. This person wrote too many words. This is a waste of time during your test because you only have 20 minutes. Okay, you could simply say, like, all of this, for example, is not needed, it's redundant. You don't need to say that your company promised something, but they're not delivering. You don't need to say that. Same with this. You don't need to say anything about what the company was promising and so on. Just say exactly what the problem is. For the last couple of weeks, we're experiencing slow connectivity and so on. Now you're going to combine it like this. There, this is a better use of your time. You can manage this in 20 minutes, but if you go on about what the company was promising and all that, you will run out of time. Don't do that. And I'm going
Yes, but I mean, now it is more understandable.
Right.
You have
Yes.
combined
Yes,
two paragraphs.
somebody wrote it like that, and I disagreed with so many paragraphs. This is how I would have written it, because this is more concise and to the point. What that person was doing is giving extra information that is not required. Okay. So, and I just changed that contraction to cannot because this is a formal letter. You should not use contractions in a formal letter.
In case of informal letter, I can use the construction, I mean punctuation, apostrophe.
The only time you're allowed to use apostrophe is if it's a possessive, but not for contractions. Okay? All right. So this is a much better letter now that I've made this introduction, body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, and farewell, and then this one here is your salutation. Okay? Sorry, it's your signature. Salutation is up here. Let's look at this one. An English-speaking friend has written to you and asked you how your IELTS studies are going. Write a letter telling your friend. So remember, it's a friend. When you see that word, you know right away it is going to be an informal letter, right? I'm going to highlight that. How you're preparing for the test. In your letter, say what progress you're making. That's bullet point 1. Explain how you're preparing for the test. That's bullet point 2. Bullet point 3 says, say which section you're finding the most difficult. That should be your body paragraph 2 right here. Body paragraph is this one. And then this one here will be part of your introduction. So bullet points tell you exactly how to do your formatting, how to do your paragraphing. So it says friend. So I am going to use the friend's name, dear, and call him Adam, call him whatever you want to call him, Tom, Sam, whatever. Okay. And they want to know how your IELTS studies are going. Now you have to inform them. So let's go back and see if there is a letter like that, giving information. So that's what this is. You're informing them about how your IELTS test or studies are going, and it is an informal letter. You're going to respond to a request because your friend made a request asking you some information about how your IELTS studies are going. So you're giving him information. Okay. Let's read the letter. So here I see that they did 1, 2, 3. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. But let's look at it closely. Dear Shelley, so because it's a good friend, you use their first name. Thanks for your reply. It's good to hear from you again, and I hope you're doing well. It's always a good idea to start your letter like that if it's a friend. Okay, because you're supposed to start with a little bit of friendly greeting. My preparation for the IELTS is going okay. You see how they're using okay and so on because it's informal. That is fine. Okay, but I don't. Here's a contraction, which is fine. It's informal. I don't have enough time for studying. I am too tired in the evenings after a full day at the office, so I have to rely on the weekends. I might need to book some private lessons if I want a good score. Okay, I think this introduction is too long. I would not have written it like that. I would have written it shorter than that, because it's saying in your introduction, say what progress you're making. And then it says how you're preparing for the test. So here, this section should say how this person, this Tina person, is preparing. One thing I like to do is read newspapers in English whilst I travel to work on the train. This is helping me with my vocabulary and grammar. I also send out emails in English to practice for the writing section. When I get home, I like to watch British TV shows with the subtitles turned off. My listening skills have improved greatly since I started watching TV, which to me is more interesting than listening to music. So this paragraph is done very well because they did exactly what the bullet point said to do, and that is explain how you're preparing for the test on your own. Okay. Now, say which section you're finding the most difficult. Let's see if she wrote about that. To be honest, the most difficult section for me is the writing section because my grammar is not good enough. I am trying my best to learn the rules of English, but some of the verbs seem to have more than one meaning, and this is causing me trouble. I hope to sit the test in about 3 months. And then best wishes, Tina. Okay, you could also say your friend instead of best wishes. So this one is exactly what they said to do in the bullet points. And this, she gave an exact reason why she's finding it difficult. And she said it's the verbs that is giving her trouble. If you're writing this letter, you have to pick something that is giving you trouble. You could say that grammar is difficult for me, but what specific part of grammar is giving you trouble? You must make that very clear in your paragraph. This one is too long. I would have made it shorter. Okay. I would not say this. I would just start. It's good to hear from you again. I hope you're doing well. My preparation for the IELTS is going okay, but I don't have enough time for studying. You could explain why. I am too tired in the evenings, so I have to rely on the weekends. You don't even need to say anything about booking private lessons, okay? Because that's not what it's asking you to say. If you look at the bullet points, it's just saying what progress you're making. And you can simply say, I am not making much progress because I'm too tired in the evenings after working a full day. And that's all you have to say. Okay. And then here is saying how she is preparing for it on her own, and here what is giving her trouble. And that's all you have to do, because you have fulfilled all the criteria of your bullet points. Once you fulfill the criteria, you're finished your letter, then you go ahead and count them. Count how many words you have. In your test, by the way, if you're writing it out, you don't have time to count every single word in your essay and in your letter. How will you do that? So you have to use your average or your mathematical understanding of how to do this quickly.
And article and the preposition will be counted.
Yes, every single thing is counted. So what you do is, you know, you're writing well. You should know how many average, on the average, how many words are you writing per line. Let's say if you write small words, if your writing is small, then you can probably get 7 or 8 words per line. Then you count the number of lines and you go 1, 2, only the full lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Multiply that by 7 or 8. And that will give you an approximate on how many words you're using. But because this is typed, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 words in one line. So 20 times 9, actually, if you count the halves, that's 1. So that's about, I'm looking at about 10 lines. That's about 200 words right there. You multiply it. 10 times 20 gives me 200 words. So in your test, do not count every single word. You will run out of time. Do an average. You must become familiar with your own writing and how many average words you're writing per line, and then count the number of lines and multiply it by the average. And you'll get an average idea. Okay? Do you understand what I'm saying about that?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Do the same with your essay. Okay, take an average of per line. If you write really big words and you can only fit 5 words per line, then multiply it by 5. But then that means you will have to write more lines, okay, to get your desired 150 words. Now here's the band descriptors, and I want to go through this. This is the last thing I want to show you, so you understand how you're marked. This is what you're marked on. The examiners have a copy of this when they're reading your essay and they're reading your letter. Task achievement is for letter. This is for task 1. Okay. Task achievement, and the band scores are over here. It starts at 0, goes all the way up to 9, which is 9 is the highest. I usually just look at 6, 7, 8, and 9 because those are the most common ones that people get. Task achievement, coherence and cohesion, which is where the cohesive devices are and how well you're structuring your paragraphs and making them connect to each other. That's what this means. Lexical is your vocabulary, and then this is all grammar. Okay. So after they finish reading your letter, they look to see if where you fall on task achievement. Did you do all of this that it says in 6? If all of this is present, then they go to 7 to see which ones of this are present in your letter. If most of these are present, but not all, then you automatically get a 6.5 in task achievement. You won't get a 7. They will give you 6.5 because you completed everything in 6 and you're partway in 7, but not completely. But if they find that you did everything in 7, then you will get a band score 7 in task achievement. Then they will do the same with coherence. They will look to see where you fall in coherence, okay, by reading the descriptors. So let's say you get a 7 in coherence and 7 in task achievement. But in lexical, your vocabulary wasn't quite connected to the task, you get a 6, okay? So far you got a 7 and a 7 and a 6. Then they look at your grammar and they find that you used a mixture of simple and complex sentences. You made some grammatical errors and punctuation error, but they are not so bad that they were not able to understand your letter. In that case, it's a 6. So you'll get a band 6. But a band 7, if you use a variety of complex structures, like the letter that we just saw had quite a few complex sentences. So that would put them in a band 7. They had error-free sentences. That means the grammar was quite good. And they had good control of grammar and punctuation. So actually that one that we just read is not even a 7. It's more like 8 or 8.5. It's a very good model. So what they do then, after they've given you one band score in each one of these categories, so 7, 7, 6, and 6, they're going to add it up. 7 plus 7 plus 6 plus 6. And whatever the sum is, they're going to divide it by 4 to take the average. And that will be your overall band score for task 1. Okay. Then they'll do the same with task 2 with your essay. And they will give you 1 for task response. They will give you 1 band score for coherence, 1 for lexical, 1 for grammar. They will add them up and they will divide that by 4, and you will get an overall for band 2. And then they will take task 1 and task 2 overall that they gave you, and they will add those up and they will divide those by 2, and that will be your overall score for writing, all of the writing. So this is how you get your band scores. Everything is averaged, but they break everything up into individual categories. Okay. This is why it's very important that you stick to task achievement, coherence, and vocabulary and grammar as close as possible by looking at what they require you to do in band 7. Most of you require band 7, some require band 8, whether it's for immigration or whether you're trying to study abroad. So you have to be very careful that you're meeting all of the requirements in band 7 to get an overall band 7 in task 1. All right. And the same with an essay. If you have sent me essays and you're getting a band 6 from me, it's because this is where I am seeing you, because I always look at the band descriptors before I give you your band score. I break it apart into categories in the feedback that I give you, and then I add them up, and I after I total it up, I divide it by 4 to give you an overall, just like they do. All right. If you have not seen band descriptors before, please download it from the British Council website. They're available there, or I can post it for you on WhatsApp. Does anybody have any questions? This is the end of our presentation. If you think that you are ready to do a letter, ready to write a letter based on what you heard today and what you learned today, then please do one and send it to me. Okay? And then I will give you feedback based on the descriptors. And let's see how well you do with them.
Yeah, we'll try, madam.
All right, great. Thank you. All right, so on Sunday, I will do a listening test. And then next week, I will do grammar and reading with you. Okay?
On Sunday, listening, right?
Listening, yes.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Thank you, everyone. And I'm going to stop recording now and I will log off.